Hey everyone, it's Chad D, and welcome to He's Not Wrong. Before we play the intro music, I just want to say this is a big episode for me because we have reached the 20th episode. So the fact that we made it here at this point with all of your support and guidance and help and whatever you've done to contribute to He's Not Wrong, whether it's, like I said, support, sharing this with your friends and family, or just commenting on my social media, following the accounts, or sending in audio messages. I genuinely appreciate it. The next milestone will be episode 50, which is about 30 weeks away. So we're looking maybe, how many months is that? Like 7, 8 months. Am I doing horrible math right now? I think that'll put us into 2026. So we're in this for the long haul. So I appreciate you, and let's roll the music. All right, everyone, let's get going. We have a full episode. We have a lot to talk about when it comes to the Constitution again, the Second Amendment, the 14th Amendment, Trump, Rosie O'Donnell, RFK, and Maha Mommies, and FDA tax cuts, the big, beautiful bill, and direct impacts that are not healthcare related that you might be feeling. And then we're going to double down on, last week's audio message from Connor, because man, oh man, did we get some hate from people on social media about what he was not wrong about. And guess what? He's still not wrong. And I'm going to double down and we're going to talk about it. And so with that being said, we're going to get started. I'm really grateful, as I said, that we're in the 20th episode. But one thing about making it to the 20th episode is the fact that people around me, or people who might just know me as an acquaintance, are starting to listen to the podcast, and they're feeling brave enough and confident enough and supported enough to come to me to talk about what I say in the podcast, to have one-on-one conversations, to understand why it is that I believe what I believe, why it is I'm saying what I'm saying, and then to share their side of the equation, and then I give a response as to why I fully believe that they're wrong in their thinking. And this happened about a week ago when I was having a conversation with someone trying to talk to me about the big, beautiful bill. And it needs to be stated for the record that I do not agree with the big, beautiful bill. I think that the big, beautiful bill should be called the big, ugly bill, as a lot of Democrats are calling it. And so from this point forward, we're going to call it the big, ugly bill, because I don't like saying big, beautiful. That is so, oh my God, it's so stupid. But anywho, we're having a conversation about it. And their whole premise to their argument as to why they supported it is because there's just a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse when it comes to Medicaid and Medicare. And I feel like there has been a really big push in the far right's vocabulary to always just justify what they're talking about by saying it's waste, it's fraud, and it's abuse. And if it falls into that category, then they have free reign to do whatever they want to try to, take over and implement whatever policy, whether illegal or legal, constitutional or not, put it into place to tackle waste, fraud, and abuse. And so they try to justify everything as being wasteful or fraudulent or abusive. And so that was where this conversation was going. But what I needed them to understand is that there were things that are hidden in the bill that you might not know about that's going to make your life more difficult. For instance, raising the tax rate on everyone that makes under $50,000 a year. Some of the poorest people in the country who can't afford the cost of living right now, who need the social safety nets that the federal government provides, are now going to have to pay more in taxes. So people like myself, like my family members, like my friends, like the people I work with, can save a few extra dollars each paycheck on their taxes. But really, so the ultra rich can benefit from these extended tax cuts. So the rich are getting richer off the backs of the poor. And I said, I really don't care that I'm saving a few extra dollars a year, because if it's at the cost of other people having less, that's not fair. That's not a fair system. And then the conversation went into like, why are you voting against your best interests, right? It's in your best interest for everyone to have the support and help that they need, because ultimately that keeps our hospitals clear for when you need your medical procedures. It means that our costs of goods are going to stay at a relatively normal price. It's a snowball effect. When you take things away from the majority of citizens for the benefits of billionaires, let's call it what it is, the ultra wealthy, it's a snowball effect, and it affects everyone. And I don't understand why people can't understand that. And so then the conversation evolved from the big ugly bill into really supporting RFK Jr. and everything that he's doing with trying to make America healthy again. And so let's just state for the record now, yes, I think we can all agree that the food standards in our country are poor. There should be certain substances that are banned. No one is saying, yeah, we need to keep red dye and yellow dye in our foods. I think everyone can agree that those things need to go. But it's the way that they're going about it. It's the messaging behind it. It's bucking scientists and medical experts and making sure that the policies that we're putting into place are medically and scientifically sound, that they're coming from reputable sources, not putting health influencers who took a 6-hour course to get some kind of certificate online by an unreputable place in positions of power that are making policy decisions. That's not how this is supposed to work. So again, this person is talking about RFK and agreeing with Make America Healthy Again, and saying that she can look past a lot of stuff if we can implement a lot of what it is that RFK Jr. is proposing. And the counter argument to that is the same people who want to make America healthy again, who want to try to boost the standards of our food regulations in America, are cutting and laying off hundreds of thousands of employees and cutting hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from budgets from places like the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. The place that would be the regulatory body to make sure that our food standards are at the highest levels so we can actually make America healthy again. Let's gut that administration. Let's make sure that they don't have what they need just to do the bare minimum. But let's trust RFK Jr. to do what he's doing and just expect that our food is magically going to start being at a higher standard. That's not how it works. And when I pointed out that the FDA has been cut, that Senator John Ossoff from Georgia invited RFK Jr. and his team to come to Atlanta to see firsthand what is happening to the FDA so they can understand how their cuts, it's not doing anything that's for the benefit of Americans. It's ridiculous. And it's really making me mad that people can't close the loop on a lot of these things, that you have a policy that's make America healthy again, but then yet you're voting for the exact opposite of what that policy, what it takes for that policy to be put into place. You're voting for people to gut the administrations and the regulatory bodies that are necessary to make sure that food standards are at a high level, that certain substances are banned, and to make sure our medicines are at the highest standard in the world. It's ridiculous. So I got this. So to continue the story, I got this person on our side on this. They went and did their research and they started spewing a few of their, and I'm doing air quotes for those listening on the podcast streaming apps. I'm doing air quotes because they got their facts from Fox News. In fact, that's when I ended the conversation, because I think it's absolutely insane. I know I keep saying absolutely insane and absolutely ridiculous, but I'm just at a loss of words for how to explain it. But they got their supposed facts from Fox News. And I was reading those facts, and obviously there's so many facts with what's going on with the big beautiful bill, what's in it, the impacts it's going to have for Americans. You can't fit all of it into an infographic, but you can best bet that a place like Fox News is going to just cherry pick a few things to make people believe that the big beautiful, the big ugly bill is not as bad as we're making it seem. And so that's gripe number maybe 2, 3, 4. I don't know at this point. We're only 11 minutes into this podcast episode and we've covered a lot, but they got their facts from Fox News, and I need everyone to start actually getting their facts from reputable news outlets and sources. If you don't like Fox News and you don't trust CNN, go to AP. Okay? Go to the New York Times. There are still places that have been politicized that you can get factual news. Go to Reuters. There are options for you to get your facts, not propagandist machines. And while we're on the topic of propagandist machines, I am sick and tired of, I'm trying so hard not to cuss, but I'm sick and tired of idiots being platformed like Jillian Michaels on CNN, on Abby Phillips' show. So for those that don't know, Abby Phillips is an amazing journalist who hosts a show every weeknight on CNN where it starts out with a roundtable discussion, and they try to have a mix of Republicans and Democrats and people from various backgrounds that discuss in a roundtable format and debate hot button items from that day. And I can understand that concept, right? You're putting people of different mindsets together and hopefully coming to some kind of consensus on an issue. But that's not what this show is. The show is literally just pitting people against each other for entertainment on a news network that already has a bad reputation across the country with the majority of people. That show needs to be canceled. It rubs me the wrong way, and they're platforming the wrong people. Please tell me why Jillian Michaels is talking about the Constitution on CNN. Why? That pisses me off. Jillian Michaels needs to stay in her lane. I know Republicans love to tell celebrities, stay in your lane. You were made for entertainment, so act, sing, but don't talk politics. And for those that on TikTok and YouTube that are going to say, Chad, stay in your lane, I am in my lane. I've worked in politics long enough. I've worked on congressional campaigns. I ran for office myself. I lived in DC and did the whole political lifestyle. So I am in my lane. So just kind of bucking those comments that are to come now. But why is Jillian Michaels, who is a health influencer or health and lifestyle workout influencer from a weight loss show, talking about the Constitution? So let's talk about what she was talking about on Abby Phillips' show regarding the 14th Amendment. She was trying, so as we talked about, I need to calm down. As we talked about in the last episode, the Trump administration is trying to challenge birthright citizenship. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that we're having a conversation to this day how the Constitution is not constitutional. The founding fathers, they wrote the Constitution. The 14th Amendment came along. There was a case in the Supreme Court that was tried in the 1800s that solidified any kind of question regarding birthright citizenship. And now here we are in 2025 trying to push the bounds with what it means when there is no gray area on the topic of the 14th Amendment as it relates to birthright citizenship. And so you have Jillian Michaels on CNN, who CNN is platforming and putting in front of people and normalizing her voice and her opinion when she has no credible background to be speaking about the Constitution. Last time I checked, she was helping people lose weight. She's not a constitutional lawyer. So let's get that out of the way. But she's talking about how the founding fathers did not intend for the borders to be open, for the 14th Amendment with birthright citizenship to be what it is today. Are you kidding me? That's your argument for the 14th Amendment? for birthright citizenship. Like, if you're going to speak on it, like, let's have a conversation. But that was her stance. So if you want to talk about defining and interpreting the Constitution, what the founding fathers meant and what they didn't mean, if there's anyone who I'm not going to trust their voice on this, it's absolutely Jillian Michaels. But if she wants to use that argument, let's apply that argument to the Second Amendment. Did we ever think that the founding fathers were going to assume that we were going to have the weapons and the warfare that we have today back when they were writing the Second Amendment? Did they think that mass shootings in schools were going to happen? Did they think that hundreds and thousands of people were going to die each year by gun violence? So if we're going to use that argument to reinterpret the 14th Amendment, let's use that argument to reinterpret the Second Amendment. And while we're at it, I'm pretty sure that the founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment to address what's happening in society today. So catch me on the streets. I mean, I'm livid with where public discourse is going. I'm furious that we're platforming people like Jillian Michaels and normalizing their insane beliefs and points of view. Like, we are better than this. And yet this is where we are. It's disgusting. And we're going to take a break. All right, and we're back. And so there's another thing that we need to talk about, because we talked about it a little bit with the Constitution and before we took the break. But there's this mindset that people just don't seem to accept with Trump. It's Trump's main motive is pushing the bounds. Let's see what I can get away with now. Let's just see how we can push this a little bit and get away with consolidating power in a new and innovative, in his mind, type of way. So we can look back at when Democrats actually did propose a bipartisan bill last year under President Biden to address the immigration crisis. And it was Trump who orchestrated the entire failure of the bill that had the votes to pass and make it to President Biden's desk. And it didn't make it to his desk because Trump, behind the scenes, killed the bill because he wanted this to be an issue while he was president. I really didn't understand why back then he would kill that type of bill, or why Republicans, when they were for the bill, why they would automatically just listen to Trump and change their mind. I'm like, oh, he just wants this to be an issue so when he's in office, he can have a win. And now my thinking with everything that's going on has progressed to the point where I'm like, no, he wanted to kill that bill because if that bill passed, there would not be in his mind a justification for putting ICE in Los Angeles to kind of see what kind of militarization he can put on the streets in a major city and get away with it. There wouldn't be alligator Alcatraz in Florida if the immigration problem was solved. So if the problem was solved when Biden was president, there would be no constitutional limits that Trump was going to try to push to see how much power he can consolidate into the executive branch. And I believe that that has been his mode of operation this entire time. It's what kind of chaos can I create to then try to manufacture a solution, essentially. So, for instance, with immigration, right? He manufactured this issue that had a solution to it. So he can now be in the position where he is now, where they're saying the numbers are the lowest. They're putting people in actual cages in a concentration camp. Call it what it is, a concentration camp in Florida. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But so you have that issue. You have the tariffs issue. He's literally being a bully on an international stage where he can say, I'm going to leverage a tariff on you, and then strike a fake deal that didn't need to be made on countries that don't have the means necessary to compete with America on a trading scale. So then he can say, oh, I manufactured all of these deals. Look how great I am. And these theories that I have that he just is creating chaos so he then can try to seem like he has a win. Look at Iran. I digress. But these theories are coming true. And I got my first bit of validation on these theories when they passed the big, ugly bill. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, did a press conference, and he was talking about how President Biden in the past 2 weeks, or President Trump in the past 2 weeks has brokered so many great deals. Like, look how successful he is. Look how much good has come out of his presidency. In each thing that the Speaker of the House stated in that press conference were all things that Trump created as an issue so he could have that win. I was like, there you go. That is what he is doing. Point in case. And then you have yesterday, Donald Trump took to Truth Social to threaten Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship, saying that he's going to take away her citizenship, that she's this awful person. So we started out slow, right? We're getting all the criminals, all the people who are here that are undocumented. They're gone. So now we're going to go to the people who came here. They have paperwork. They're here legally. I'm now going to take away the legal paperwork that you have. So you then are now here illegally, and then we can put you into alligator Alcatraz. That's point 2. Now he's testing the limits to go to my theory that we just talked about with the Constitution and his pushing of the limits. Now he's going to take it to American citizens that disagree with him, that were born here. There is no question that they are full-blooded American citizens. And he's going to take to social media and he's going to push the bounds saying that he has the right to take away their citizenship. Do we see where this is going? People who dissent from what Trump believes in are now being threatened with the loss of citizenship. And if you were here when you lose your citizenship, I can guarantee you're going to find yourself at a place like alligator Alcatraz. And that's a whole nother issue, because at this point, I have no sympathy for any Republican who supports alligator Alcatraz, that concentration camp. There are people who support Donald Trump who have gone down there to take pictures, like literally have taken vacations to Florida to take pictures in front of the signs that say alligator Alcatraz as if it's some kind of trophy or prize to take a photo in front of. Like, when did it get lost on so many people that the people that are there were here legally? Not all of them, but there are people there who were here legally. They are human beings and they are being treated less than. And there are certain times in world history where we can see what happens when we normalize the belief that not all human beings are equal, that there are certain races, that there are certain ethnicities that are less than. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the path that we're on. They're already approaching their maximum limit at alligator Alcatraz. I only think it's been open for a couple weeks now. You have Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman, who went down there this week. She talked about, she was visibly shaken up by how poor the conditions were at alligator Alcatraz. And I hate saying that. I'm going to start referring to it as the concentration camp. She was visibly shaken when she walked through that concentration camp, saying there were 32 people to a cage. And if you haven't seen photos, they legitimately are cages. 32 people to a cage. There are 4 toilets in a cage, open showers. The toilets that they have sinks that are on top of them where you get your water. So you're drinking where people are literally shitting and pissing. 32 people, 4 toilets with their sinks attached. Are you kidding me? Ron DeSantis is getting on the news saying that this isn't supposed to be a hotel. It's essentially a detention center. But last time I checked, prisons and jails and detention centers usually it's like 2 to 3 people in a cell. and there's one toilet between them. So you do the math. That like it's very abnormal what is happening down there. It's inhumane, it's disgusting, it's horrible, it's reprehensible. I fully believe that they set up these concentration camps because they do have hopes that a hurricane is going to come through and just wipe it all out. And then blood is on, in their opinion, no one's hands because it's a natural disaster. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were asked yesterday, I believe, when Representative Frost was touring it, the workers down there were asked, well, what's the contingency plan for if a hurricane was to come through? And they said that would be a game time decision. So it would be a game time decision if a hurricane was going to come through to somehow remove 1,000 people plus workers out of a very remote part of the Florida Everglades. That's not, there's no logistics that could really make that work. So I think we know what their intentions are with this one. It's honestly really crazy because the people that are supporting the concentration camp down in Florida and with the big ugly bill, there has been hundreds of millions, I believe. Let's do a quick fact check on this because I want to make sure I get this right. Because in the big beautiful bill, they allocated money to ICE when they're supposed to be cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not hundreds of millions. It's literally they're giving ICE billions of dollars to expand their footprint and their operations of what we're currently seeing. So poor people are having their taxes raised. Billionaires and multimillionaires are getting a cut tax rate. They're going to have more money in their pockets from their tax cuts and tax breaks on the backs of these poor people. We're supposed to be cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, and yet ICE is getting billions of dollars to continue these horrendous and heinous and horrendous actions that they're doing. So the people that I see online here, at least in Alabama, because I have done my research, that are supporting things that the Trump administration is doing that I would define as crimes against humanity. Again, call it what it is. But these same people are, as we have discussed in previous podcasts, these Christians that supposedly love God and love the Word of God, love Jesus, and want to spread the good news. And they're going to places like the Church of the Highlands. And yet they're supporting the action, not all of them, but they're supporting the actions of the Trump administration and the things that quite literally go against what Jesus and God stand for. And I talk about the Church of the Highlands because I also think it's like really interesting, the people that go there. And again, not all people that go to the Church of the Highlands are bad, but if you're listening to this podcast and you're confused of what the Church of the Highlands, what that is, it's like a mega church here in Alabama. It's that of a non-denominational mega church that you would find in Texas, but it's Alabama's version. And I have one experience with that church, and it was back when I was in college at Auburn. I went with a friend to one of their Wednesday night services. They were begging me for a really long time, Chad, come with me to the service. Like, you're going to enjoy it. I was like, no, I'm not. But they're like, please come on. So after enough begging, I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll go. It was just interesting. But I'm sitting there and it comes time for the pastor to give his sermon. And he's talking about, when you're driving on the interstate, you're going up to North Alabama and you say you're going to Florence. And when you're headed to Florence, there's only one sign on that interstate that is telling you exit right. But you're in your car, you're distracted, you're listening to music, you're singing. You miss the sign because you're distracted. And I'm literally sitting there thinking, this is literally not what the pastor is about to say. I knew what he was about to say. He goes, because you were distracted, you missed the sign and you're going to miss your destination. That's God. He's given us all these signs, and we're missing them, and we're not going to make it to heaven. And that was it. That was the message. There's no making people think. There is no critical thinking in the message. And mind you, yes, it's a positive, good feeling message, but there is no making you think. There is no making you examine yourself and question why it is that you believe what it is that you believe, and then you coming to an answer and being reaffirmed in your faith and in what it is that you believe. There was none of that. And I'm starting to believe that all of these Christian nationalists who are supporting the Trump administration that go to places like the Church of the Highlands that are receiving messages like this have never had to critically think. They did not learn how to critically think. They do not possess the skill of thinking critically or logically or having a view that is different and diverse. Sorry if I'm using a word that offends you, diverse, but using a thought process that takes you out of your immediate bubble of everyone that looks like you. We're going to take another break. So in last week's podcast episode, I talked a little bit about Lisa Murkowski, or was that 2 podcast episodes ago? No, that was last week's episode. I talked about Lisa Murkowski and how there are consulting firms that really put a lot of money behind trying to sway just a singular Senate vote like Lisa Murkowski's. And a lot of people seem to not understand how consulting firms do that or how that's legal or where that money comes from. And so I wanted to take a moment in this podcast episode to specifically talk about those tactics, how it's legal, and kind of, reveal from behind the curtain the actions that are being taken to sway representatives' votes. Because I can guarantee you calling and you emailing, yes, it does have an impact, but that's not who these senators and Congress people are beholden to. They're beholden to the corporations who are actively putting tens of millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars into campaigns to sway whether it multiple congressional votes or whatever. So let's get started on kind of teaching this process. So say you have a multi-billion-dollar organization, and Congress has a bill in front of them that will say raise the taxes on the corporate taxes on that billion-dollar industry. And it's going to be a close vote, and it's not looking good for that corporation. So that corporation finds a consulting firm, and that consulting firm talks about different tactics and strategies that they can take to influence and sway the vote of that senator. So they agree on a path forward, a plan of action, and it's going to cost $25 million. So the corporation cuts a check to the consulting firm for $25 million. That consulting firm then sets up a 501c4, which allows money to be pumped in to this entity that they're setting up, but it's not for public knowledge. It's dark money. Again, we should look at the Supreme Court and what they've done to allow for dark money to be legal in our politics, but the consulting firm sets up the 501c4. That 501c4 has some kind of name, say like something for the people. It looks like a local organization that has a lot of like grassroots support behind it. They create social media accounts, and then they run campaigns to get followers, or they even just outright buy followers, and they start just posting to make it look like it has this presence digitally to make it look legit, right? They find people at the consulting firm to be the staff for that 501c4. And they have meetings with the corporation to figure out what it is that their goals are, or to give them information on how campaigns are running. And then they take all that money that the corporation gave them, and then they're targeting the very inner circle of that senator. They're looking at their top donors. They're looking at their family members. They're looking at their friends and the people that they're closely associated with. And they are targeting campaigns digitally to that senator and their immediate circle. They're creating an echo chamber to make it look like this issue is supported by a lot of people, and they're using that to sway, using that circle to sway the vote of that senator. And so, yes, you can be emailing, you can be calling, but and to tell your senator, please pass this bill. But at the end of the day, they're also getting information from a corporation who has billions and billions of dollars to funnel money into these campaigns that really silence your opinion and your voice. And so they look at the path, they even study the path that a congressperson might take to get from their home to their office. And they'll buy every digital billboard, they'll buy the signs that are on bus stops, and they'll put ad campaigns for that 501c4 trying to kill the bill on those bus stops. They are trying to do a multi-point touch campaign to sway that singular vote. They're doing entire full-page ad buys in the newspapers and magazines and digitally on those same websites for those newspapers and magazines that they know that that congressperson specifically gets their news from. And so there are literally so many different tactics and so many different things that are occurring that go against the better interest of Americans, because it is literally legal for corporations to have more of a say in our politics than the people do. And that needs to change, because I am so tired of the status quo. I'm tired of politicians sitting there thinking that this seat is theirs, that the position that they hold, they own it. They don't own it. We own it. And there are Republicans and there are Democrats. It's across both sides with this. I hate the term career politician, because no politician should have a career representing people. I just don't, I don't believe in it. I don't care how good you are at your job. I don't care how good you are at being a politician. The fact that you've made a career out of it is perverse. And it makes me sick with the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party just, when you look at their makeup congressionally, they support and put into positions of power people based on seniority. So if you want to be the chairman of this committee, then you have to have the seniority to get it. Look at what they've done with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She could have been the chairperson. I forget the committee, but she was nominated to be the chairperson, and they just, Hakeem Jeffries just, they killed the campaign for her, and they put someone who had seniority in, and that person with seniority is bought and paid for by multiple different organizations and corporations, and it's just going to be this the same old coming out of Congress. And until especially the Democratic Party can get a handle on getting new blood into the party and nominated for positions to be competitive in certain districts around the country, like, we don't stand a chance. Like, I've said it before, we have a messaging issue, and we also have this like seniority issue, and it's disgusting. So I say all that, and I went on that tangent about the status quo, because I can almost guarantee that Lisa Murkowski vote was somehow influenced by a 501c4 organization that was put on by a consulting company and paid for by some corporation yet to be seen. I fully believe that. And now what do we have? Because her vote made the big, beautiful bill pass the Senate. It passed the House, and it went to Trump. Everyone's talking about Medicaid, Medicare, social safety nets that are being cut, the unfair tax structure that will be put into place. But a few things that not enough people are talking about that will be impacting us because of the big, ugly bill. And that's like the direct file with the IRS on our taxes. It's been removed. So you cannot direct file your federal taxes anymore, as if it wasn't already hard enough to file your taxes. They just made it a lot more difficult for us. National Weather Service and their funding cuts were in the big ugly bill. And then student loan debt, that big topic that Republicans hate, is student loan debt relief. But they have now made it harder on American citizens because they are now, for the people who are a part of the SAVE plan on their student loans, that's in forbearance because it's in front of the courts right now. And until it makes its way through the courts, that if you're on the SAVE plan, with it being in forbearance, you don't have to make payments, but your student loans are not accruing interest. Well, because of the big ugly bill, our student loans are now starting to accrue interest on August 1st. You don't have to pay the bill because it's in front of the courts, but your interest will start accruing on August 1st. It's a way for you to be pushed into becoming part of a different plan so you can start making those payments, or you can just start like making payments on that interest. But I have a theory, as if my theories have not been proven, as if my theories haven't been proven correct enough already. I have a theory that they're doing that because they are trying to make it a lot more difficult for people to pay off their student loans, because they don't want us to pay off our student loans. They want our balances to go up, because student loan debt, the payments on that is a direct source of income for the federal government. Yes, they've loaned all this money, but it is a source of income for the federal government. Why would the federal government want to lose a source of income? If you look at student loans, they literally fit the bill for what a predatory loan is. Predatory loans are illegal, and somehow student loans are legal when predatory loans are illegal. It doesn't make sense, but they don't want us to pay off that student debt because they always want to have that revenue source coming in. So I just have a theory that they have the interest starting to accrue on August 1st because they know people are not going to be making those payments because they don't have to. They know people aren't going to go through the process of trying to go to a different plan because they wanted to be a part of the SAVE plan. So they want our they want that loan, they want that debt to go up, because that means they're going to get more money from us, as if they don't already steal from us enough already as it is. We are just going to take one more quick break, and then we're going to wrap this up. All right, we are back from our final break. I appreciate all of you for making it this far in my 20th episode of He's Not Wrong. And as I alluded to before in the opening for this episode, we were going to revisit an audio message that I got last Sunday that I used, and it was about how we've lost the plot on wedding registries, that wedding registries are getting out of hand. They're just completely out of hand. That why are you putting like $900 espresso machines on your wedding registry? Why are you putting Tiffany's on your wedding registry? All this stuff. It's like we've lost the plot. I put that clip on TikTok, and oh boy, was the comment section on that TikTok fun. I'm just going to read a few of the comments that I got. Someone said, we put bowls and plates on a registry because we can't match our plates as it is, so matching ones is what we want. If you can't afford to buy it, then just contribute to the wedding fund. That's fine, but just because you can't afford to give them the purchase doesn't mean that someone else can't or won't. So that was a valid critique. Someone else said, okay, so like with baby registries, wedding registries, you get 20% off coupon, or get a 20% off coupon on something that was not bought on that wedding registry. So I understood that, because I'm like, okay, so all these people are putting really expensive items on the wedding registry so they can then in turn get 20% off so they can get it for sale after their wedding. Like I was like, okay, that strategy, it makes sense. And then someone else said, just give a gift that's in your price range and quit bitching. Also, if it's a burden for you to attend a wedding, don't go. I'm already married, but I knew if my guests were complaining about coming to my wedding, I'll happily tell them to stay home. If you don't want to be there, then don't be there. So I'm going to end reading the comments right there, because I just want to address that one. I never said I don't want to go to the wedding. I just said the wedding registries are just getting ridiculous. I'm going to give a gift. I'm going to bring a gift. I'm going to bring I'm going to contribute to the vacation fund, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. But my complaint isn't that I don't want to go to the wedding. I'm saying the wedding registries, they have gotten out of hand, and I stand by that. I'm doubling down on that. This is where I think my thought process really got, I felt empowered, and I felt really, really, really right in my thought process on this, because so many comments were like that one. And a gift is a gift because it's unexpected, that you're not expecting it. That comment makes it seem like you're getting married because of the gifts. And if you can't afford a gift, then don't come to the wedding. At that point, it's not a gift. It's a cost of entry. In order to enter your wedding, you have to bring a gift. I am wholly opposed to that thought process. Gifts should not be the center of your wedding. And there were so many women on that TikTok who kind of took that approach in the comment section, that it's all about the gifts. If you can't afford one, don't come. I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were inviting me because you wanted to see what kind of gift I was going to bring you. Like, get over yourselves. I'm not wrong that wedding registries and weddings, I'm adding on to it, wedding registries and weddings as a whole, we have lost the plot on them. And with that, that is going to be it for this episode. It was a long one. There were things on my list that I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to. I apologize about that. We'll touch on those on next week's episode. You can find me here next Sunday. I hope you'll be joining me then. If you have something that you're not wrong about, please send me an audio message to the @He'sNotWrong podcast Instagram account, or you can, as always, call in to He's Not Wrong. And the phone number for that, once again, vamping, the phone number for that is 205-538-3202. And you can leave me a voicemail about what it is that you are not wrong about. I also have a website created now. You can go to he'snotwrongpodcast.com and you can listen to all these episodes on there. You can watch them. You can listen to them on whatever platform it is that you listen to podcasts on. And be sure to go put your email in the email box, because I'm going to start a newsletter here soon. So go give me your email if you're listening. He's Not Wrong podcast.com. And with that, I'll see you next weekend.